Salutations. Welcome. Today is a massive milestone because it's officially the 1 year anniversary of my first commercial game, Gat-Pon. To celebrate, I've been designing some new anniversary stickers, but looking back at this milestone made me really want to go back and look at the good and the bad of indie game development. So, long story short, Gat-Pon was a complete accident. It was never meant to be a full-on commercial game. Originally, I only just wanted to build a portfolio piece to showcase UI and UX elements because that's what I was deeply into at the time. Right now, I'm thinking about how it all started, and when I was making bits and bobs for Etsy, I was designing custom stream overlays, emotes, and graphics. And a lot of these layouts were inspired by game menus. Around that same time, I built my very first website, TeckGeck.com. You should go visit it. I realized I absolutely loved designing buttons, tweaking layouts, and creating menus that smoothly direct you to different places. I wanted to see if I actually liked UI UX for real. So I took a chance and I decided to learn a game engine. I told myself I didn't have to make or build the whole game, just a functional UI showcase. And then I ended up messing around with a Ratchet & Clank UI UX fan project inside of the Godot engine, which I'll put a link to the video in the description. But while messing around with these buttons, a light bulb went off. I realized that there are entire games out there that are purely built around UI and UX loops, like outdoor games, such as Cookie Clicker itself. And I asked myself, why don't I just build my own? My personal spin on the idle formula was to combine it with retro aesthetics and Pokemon and Digimon. The initial concept was centered around collecting Y2K items such as CDs, cassette tapes, flip phones, and old Game Boys and Game Boy cartridges. I even had the idea to model them all in 3D so that the player could rotate them around on the screen, but then I quickly realised I might be pushing it a bit too much for my first run. And also the game engine at the time didn't support 3D. Instead, I shifted towards vintage Tamagotchis. Fell in love with that classic pixelated LCD green screen vibe, you know what I'm saying? And the core loop of Gat-Pon was officially born. But man oh man, whew, dealing with scope creep as a solo game dev can get you. When I first sat down, I confidently told myself the game would easily have 30 unique creatures to collect. Then I finished designing the first 5. I was completely burnt out. I was like, was that a good idea? So I tried to narrow it down to just 10 creatures to save my mental stamina, but that felt a bit too small, so I split the difference, added 5 more, and landed on the final count of 15. I still have a bunch of unused creature designs archived in my vault that carry references to all of the things I freaking love, and I'd love to add them in the engine one day if people want to see them, so let me know if you're interested on seeing updates, because I'm considering it. On a related note, I also planned a whole ascension mechanic so you could start again from the beginning, but you still keep your progress. It was slated for the big 1.0 patch, but I had to cut it out just so I can get the game out of the door. So the character you see on screen is Bubblegum. Her real name is Zambari, so a bit of fun trivia. Her design was heavily inspired by the classic female Pokemon protagonists because I almost wear some sort of distinctive headwear. So I knew from day one I wanted her to wear some sort of a beret. The fact that she's French is completely unrelated. That was not on purpose, I swear to God. There's another reason for that, but I'll tell you in the future, maybe. Her signature red and white colour palette actually carries massive subconscious spike energy from Ape Escape. When I first shared the game's music, people online were literally joking, asking if this was the lost Ape Escape for that game that we never got. It's funny because I actually met most of the incredible composers who worked on this game through our shared love of the Ape Escape series. The music playing right now in the background is actually straight from Gat-Pon, so I'll put a link in the description if you want to go check it out. I even planned a ton of deep lore for Gat-Pon, but most of it ended up getting thrown entirely into the loading screens, just to keep the development moving. Zambari got a nickname from a friend who saw the core gameplay and said it felt like interacting with like a vintage kind of bubblegum machine, you know, the ones where you get sweets from, like the original concept of like gacha machines. I guess they're not really gacha though. It's a gumball machine. That's why her name is Bubblegum. I originally was going to call her Gum, but Jet Set Radio already claimed that name in the way 2K space, so Bubblegum stuck instead. No pun included with Bubblegum sticking. I was planning on sketching another character here instead, a potential secondary character that would take the lead in a metaphorical spiritual successor. Zambari's cousin, Trinity. They have a dynamic heavily inspired by the Squid Sisters from Splatoon. If you know, you know. If I ever build that spiritual successor, it's going to lean heavily into that original 3D Y2K item collecting concept. But as I said back when I first started development on Gat-Pon, GameDev, the engine that I'm using for the original Gat-Pon, didn't have 3D capabilities, but now the engine has proper full-on 3D tools with a 3D viewport and everything, meaning I can actually bring that original kind of CD and Game Boy kind of collection idea to life if I ever wanted to. So now let's talk about the raw financial data, because this is where a lot of people might look at an independent game and see a complete failure that bombed. At the time of recording, Gat-Pon has been live on Google Play for over a year, and it's generated just under £10 in total ad revenue, which it's kind of funny because I originally didn't plan to make money off this game, so the fact that I got money from this game is a win in my book. And when you factor that I spent it out of pocket, I lost money, quite literally, because of the people that I hired. But I don't see this as a failure at all. In fact, I view it as a massive success. A lot of that money went directly towards hiring talented artists to help with the creative designs and incredible composers to help me craft the soundtrack. Because of that investment, I managed to produce and manage my very first collaborative music album. I never would have thought in a million years that a video game that I made would turn me into an album producer. But yeah, we built something that's genuinely cool, and I still listen to the soundtrack to this day. I'm not just saying that. Like, honestly, it's you know, you should go buy it. But more than anything, I finished the game. 1.0 was out. I overcame the burnout, bypassed procrastination traps, and actually published a commercial title on Google Play. The experience alone is priceless. I failed quickly, which allowed me to learn quickly. There's a constant debate in the indie space between the developers who say that they should only kind of build a minimum viable product to learn the ropes, versus those who say that you should just stick to your guns and build your dream game no matter how big it is. Experience this firsthand. I lean heavily towards keeping your first game small and tiny. Managing scope creep is an art form in itself, and shipping a small win does wonders for your ego and your confidence. So, what is the next steps for me right now? So, I'm actually learning GameMaker at the moment. Gat-Pon was brilliant for like the initial learning grounds, but my ultimate bucket list right now is to develop a game directly to Steam. I want to build a pipeline where if the stars align right, the engine architecture is ready, like it's already set up. So if I want to port the game to other consoles such as the Nintendo Switch down the line, I don't have to build the whole game from scratch. So for example, if I use GDevelop right now and people are asking for like a console port, I'm unable to do so because GDevelop isn't built for consoles. I have a few specific projects running in the background, but I'm going to purposefully keep those details a bit vague right now while I play around in GameMaker. But before I head out, I want to give a massive shout out to the almost 500 people who have downloaded and played Gat-Pon over the past year. I think technically it is over 500 if you want to kind of combine the downloads across all platforms. So thank you so much. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me. Honestly, it means more than you realize. If you want to support my little corner of the internet, I'm launching 3 exclusive anniversary stickers on my store today, including a retro PS2 case styled sticker along with a PS2 style disc and the Gat-Pon logo rendered in my own custom TKN Miklo font. You can grab those directly on TeckGeck.com. You can also get the full Gat-Pon soundtrack on our site and Bandcamp, or stream it across Spotify, Apple Music and Amazon. And lastly, a big massive thank you to all my active supporters. Right now I'm reworking the Ko-Fi goodies, but if you want to see your name in future videos, and even potentially future games, head over to techget.com/supporters. Do you want to see a full spiritual successor to Gat-Pon? Drop a comment down below. Subscribe to the techget.com newsletter to keep in the loop. And I will see you all later. Bye bye.